Hello, everybody, and welcome back to yet another episode of Against All Odds. And as I say at the beginning of every podcast, it's a purely selfish reason why I record these episodes, because I get to speak to people that inspire me. And today we have a returning guest. We've just realised it's about a year ago now. So Sam Gibson, welcome back, mate. How are you?
I'm great. I'm really great. Yeah, it's a pleasure to be back. It's part two, returning guest. I feel honoured.
Oh, thank you. We're both fighting a cold here, so if we start sneezing, that's why.
Yeah, we said we're gonna edit it
Well,
out.
we're going to get it edited out, but yeah, it's winter. We've all got colds, so yeah, and we're still here. That's the main thing.
Yeah,
You've been really busy, haven't you, in the last 12 months?
just a little bit. Yeah, you could say that. Yeah.
Wow. I just want to show everybody Sam's book, Why You Overeat and How to Stop for Good. Before we delve into this book, when was the moment that you realised you needed to write a book?
All right. So it was actually about 3 years ago. So I'll tell you the full story. You might as well. So we're on the same program, at the same mentoring program. We've been a part of that community for a few years now. And you know what it's like when we do our end of year review and we're looking at our wins and what worked, what didn't. So the end of 2022, so coming up to 3 years ago now, I had written down something that I wanted to achieve for next year, and that was write a book. So I initially planned to write this book in 2023, but then the next year, doing the quarterly events that we go to at the end of the year, see that one I written down in my journal right at the start of the year, and I was like, oh God, I didn't even get started with that. I got nowhere near even attempting. I didn't even open a Word document and write one sentence. Basically I didn't even get started. I just wrote it down, didn't do it. So I went, right, 2024, it's going to be the year. Same thing happened again last December. I'm like, fuck, I've been writing down I'm going to write a book for 2 years now, and I'm not. So I was like, right, what's going on? So I was like, right, quarter one. I didn't say I was going to finish it. I said I was going to start it. April, 1st of April. I haven't done it again. So it was the start of this year. I realized I've been putting it off for 2.5 years, and I actually found out the reason why. And you're going to love this, because you're obviously neuro scientist, or you're involved in the neuroscience, and that you know how the brain works. And what I've discovered, something that I'm going to carry with me the rest of my life. The reason I'd failed to get started on writing this book, I wanted to do it, right? So I asked myself that question: do I actually want this? Because how many of us say we're going to do something, but if we're really want to take a psychological deep dive on ourselves, we like the idea of doing it, but we don't value it at all. We're just not willing to. We want the reward without the process. That wasn't that. I really did want to do it, but I realized I was so just overwhelmed with work. Not that I was having a bad time at work. I had a certain amount of energy, let's say 100% of my energy was going on clients, building businesses, in my program. And I was like, there's no way I'm going to write that book. I literally do not have the time and energy. The energy that I do have left over at the end of the week, I need to put it into my partner, into my life, into my family, I'm not going to sit down and write a book. So I had to make a decision. So in April, I actually decided, quarter two, I didn't take on a single new client in my business. I didn't do anything business related. All I did is serve the clients I already had. And that creative energy that I was spending on, sales calls and marketing and doing webinars and all that sort of stuff, I stopped. And when I realized it gave me about 10 to 12 hours a week back. I then put it into the book. It took us about 7 months in the end, but that creative energy that I needed to write this book, I couldn't do it because my brain was overloaded. So I know the brain thrives, the frontal cortex thrives in modes of play where you feel safe and calm and you've got space. And when I activated that part of my brain, it just flew through me, and this book came out. But I realized I couldn't do that, be creative and immerse myself in writing a book, and just be hustle, grind, client, solving problems, business. I couldn't do both. So I had to take a step back in one area of my life to free up that mental space to be able to sit down and be creative. And like I said, you'll love that, because that is it's an expression of how the brain works. When the brain is overloaded, there's too many priorities, too many open loops. Like, how can I sit down and write a book? I'm like, I've got 16 client check-ins left to do. Or I've got 13 phone calls tomorrow. Or I've got to make that post for that webinar next week. I couldn't do it. So I was writing it down every year. I'm going to write a book. I like the idea of it, but my brain wasn't in a position to write it, So I had to take a step back, close one chapter in my life temporarily, I just work with the clients I've got, but because I wasn't pursuing new clients or pursuing new business, I now had booked up loads of time, about 10 to 12 hours I worked out a week. I took a day off, or 1 or 2 days off each week where I wasn't doing client work. I went to the library and it just came out. The writing of the book was actually really easy because I knew what I was going to write. I just didn't have the system and the strategy to actually do it. So to answer your question, we got there in the end. I decided to write it properly in April this year, but the seed was planted nearly 3 years ago. I just didn't get around to it for that reason.
Right. So you did find it easy to write, but because this is what you're pro at. So I suppose once you started, it just all came out, I suppose.
I had too many loops on my brain that I couldn't settle in order to write it. I was like, I've got to do this, I've got to do that. So it was almost like I couldn't give myself permission to sit in the library for 8 hours, turn my phone off, not worry about my clients, and go, right, I'm going to write this. Because it obviously takes you have to think it out and have a plan and be, immerse yourself in it. And it's almost like very spiritual, very meditative like work. I don't know if anyone listening right now is produced a book or maybe even writing a song or, anything creative. It requires you to kind of like close yourself off and double down, and then this energy takes over. But I wasn't able to do it because my brain was thinking about other things I couldn't settle, So when I started it, it was great, but I had to stop trying to spin so many plates, I guess, in order to actually follow through.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I've read this book and I'm very impressed because most of the time you find that you can just read it and it doesn't really relate to the person that's reading it. But this book, you have to become self-aware. You make people become self-aware with this book. It's full of questions, isn't it?
That's the whole point, questions are the steering wheel of mind. And I honestly believe, right, it's a very reductionist attitude I've got right now. The world's very complex and solving problems are very complex. But if we want to reduce it down to a single strategy that gets you 80% of the way there, it's the problem that I'm trying to solve. I just need to prime it with a really good question. And when you ask a really good question, it tends to open those doors for the answers. So you can almost solve any problem by asking the right question, Even if that question is like, right, I've actually decided I can't do this. So who can do this for me? There you go. A world-class question now opens this entire new world of potential solutions to the problem. So I honestly believe, like I said, it's a bit of a reductionist kind of narrative. Like, of course, the world's so complex and it doesn't apply to every problem in the world, but most people's everyday problems can be solved, or at least a solution can be presented by asking a really good question. And it's no different for coaching. It's no different for this. It's no different for any change in habits or behavior change. That's what this book is. Like, how can you go through the behavior change of overeating? How can you stop overeating? That's the title of the book. So I just got clear of, right, what are the best questions that I could ask? How can I tell stories that got people to go, wow, that I resonate with that, or maybe I don't resonate with it, but I'm inspired by it, and that means this to me, so I'm going to give it a shot. And that's the feedback I've been getting from this book. It's like, oh my God, it was like you wrote it about me. It was like you're inside my mind. It's like you've been with us, watching us for so long. I'm like, I promise you, I haven't, right? I'm not this clairvoyant psychic who can read your mind. I just know what questions to ask to get people to resonate the things that they need to resonate with.
Yeah, I mean, because you talk about your journey in here as well, but you also add in like the 7 voids. Like, you've put that in the book, and I absolutely love that because people overeat for different reasons. So I suppose people can resonate, go, right, that one's my void, that one's my void. That's what I like about it. It's not just all about you. You've gone about it with like every angle to try and talk to that person reading that book.
Yeah, so, as the saying goes, right, the wheel's round, don't try and reinvent it. Okay, there's no point in creating a triangle wheel, right? So as you can see, I've got a bookshelf there, right? And I've also got loads of books written here, sitting here. Dr. John DeMartini, Nicole LePera, How to Be the Love That You Seek. I love this book. The 7 Voids, I got that from Johann Hari. So I'm just a collector of information. So when I wanted to write my own version of this, I was like, right, what really inspired me and what books have I read that I really loved? And then I just emulated, right, how to write it. It's normally a combination of share some of your story to get people to realize, oh, this guy's a human, this girl's a human. She's not just some robot who's writing a book, right? I'm actually sensing some authenticity here. And it's easy to be authentic, just tell the truth. Like, people go on about authenticity all the time, how to be authentic. I'm like, you don't need to try and be authentic unless you're lying, right? Just tell the truth, and then there you go. authenticity is automatically done. So I was like, right, I'll tell a bit of my story. Then other great books that I've read and that I model myself off went, right, they also share stories of people who they help. So they tell anecdotes, they tell stories to prove their point. And that's all writing is. It's just telling good stories. So I thought, right, I'm going to write a book based off a combination of client success stories. It would be silly not to talk about some of the amazing transformations that I've seen in my own business and the people I've helped over the last decade. So I thought, right, I'll tell some stories. I'll tell a bit of my story, and then I'll fill it in between the storytelling with asking really good questions to get people to go, right, I resonate with that. My purpose with the book was just literally to get someone to feel inspired. And here's something I love, right? I'm going to share this with you. You might not know this. The word inspired means in spirit. I think that's the Latin definition. So when I think about when I felt inspired by someone, it almost as if like positive energy's just been overtaken in me, like I've been possessed by positive energy, like a spirit. A positive spirit is in me, and all of a sudden I feel motivated, I'm like inspired. I'm like, right, I love that feeling. So that's it. I wanted to inspire people to give them that spirit of energy, that spirit of hope, that spirit of motivation, and then go off and write their own story, you know, and that's all I wanted to do. So tell a little bit of my story, tell a little bit of client success stories, ask some really good questions, and that framework for the book, that's been done time all over. All the best books are that book. It's a little bit of that, a little bit of this, and then getting the person to become inspired and almost insert themselves in the story as well. So I just followed proven frameworks that I know work, that inspired me, put my
Yeah.
based off what I wanted to know. So it was almost like I had this blueprint for in my mind what it should look like, and then I just filled it with information that I knew would land. So that's when I said that writing the book was actually really easy. It's like I knew what I wanted to write; it was already there. I just didn't actually sit down and start writing it. And once I did, it was like the floodgates opened, and it was a thoroughly enjoyable process, I must admit.
I think it's a great book because you ask questions. So, like, you ask questions in there, like, what emotion are you feeling before you binge eat and things like that. It's quite hard with some people to get them to become self-aware and to admit to themselves. That's the only thing with questions. If you've got to be completely honest with yourself, haven't you? Do you find people struggle with that? Because eating's been a coping mechanism for quite a while for some people.
Yeah. I mean, I get this through just like social media messages, or maybe someone who listened to one of my old, or I did an audiobook a few years ago that was, you know, it's not on the same level as this. This is world class, you know, self-proclaimed blow my trumpet here. But I've put out resources before where I've had people listen to it and go, oh, well, I sort of get it, but I don't really think that's applicable to me. And I'm like, all right, what makes you say that? Well, I don't think I emotionally eat. I just struggle with willpower. And I'm like, all right, okay. And I don't argue with them. I don't try and prove them wrong, because I know you kind of get someone to see something they don't want to see. And in that moment, the reason you said like that, oh, it's hard for people to like resonate with that. They have to be like almost emotionally ready.
Yeah.
Because if they were to admit and accept, all right, I am using food because of anxiety, as an example, then they would be forced to ask a second question: why am I feeling anxiety? And in order to solve the problem of overeating, they would have to get to the root cause about why they're feeling anxious. And that normally means they've got to face some sort of problem in their life. People don't want to do that. And until we're ready to face our problems, we'll not be ready to accept or admit certain things about ourselves, and we'll continue this story of, oh, it's different for me. You'll get this with your business and clients as well, or people you speak to. Oh, it doesn't really work for me. I'm a little bit different. And I just have to have compassion and hold space for that person, and just be like, hey, I'm here when you need us. You know, here's something I think can help. I learned a long time ago, Amy, not to try and convince someone. It never works. My goal is to just put something out there, and if people happen to resonate with it, then I can help. If they don't resonate with it, it's completely fine. You know, maybe they will one day. But yeah, you're right. Not everyone is ready to do that deeper work. But I do think I've done a good job of simplifying, opening the door to that deeper work as much as I possibly could in that book. It's definitely a good introduction for people who've maybe previously not done any kind of personal development or mindset work around the habits before. However, I'm also fully aware that someone could literally read my book and be like, yeah, none of that applies to me, because that unfortunately they weren't ready to hear. That's why we'll call it uncomfortable truths or inconvenient truths.
I was about to say, yeah, the uncomfortable bit, because I suppose the food isn't the problem, is it really?
No. That sounds mad, because the book's like, why are you overeating, how to stop? So people think it's about food. Obviously, I talk about food a lot, right? But like I say many times in the book, the eating issues, they're the symptom to the problem, not the problem. And if we want to solve the symptom, which we think is the problem, but it's not, as in overeating, gaining
Yeah.
weight, eating disorders, all that sort of stuff. We've got to go back to the root, which is normally some sort of, like you said, emotional void, a lifestyle issue, some sort of stress, or even unresolved trauma. I talk a lot about that in the book. You know, unresolved trauma massively impacts people's personalities. You know this from a science perspective more than me, that they know what the brain and the neural connections of someone who's went through trauma looks like. And if healing and certain mindset work and certain, strategies are not taken, certain habits and behaviors, that trauma won't go, and it will subconsciously control that person's life without them even realizing. So a lot of emotional eating is unresolved trauma in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, so I suppose that's why you see people yo-yoing so much, because they
Yeah,
do think it's about food. So it's like cut the
yeah,
food out,
yeah,
and that's yeah,
yeah. I done a video on
yeah,
this
and
the
I
other day.
think that yeah, that's yeah, it's the emotional side is the hardest thing, because technically we can cut out things. It's quite easy. It's that emotion, isn't it, that's attached to it.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
let me kind of paint you a picture to draw home this point, right? And as I've been working with people in some way, shape, or form on their eating and their diet and whatever. I started off as a PT, gravitated towards bigger things than what I'm doing now. About 10 years, about 2016 is when I first started coaching clients in the gym. Didn't really take off until a few years later, but for about nearly 10 years now, it's nearly 2026 in a couple of months. So for 10 years, I realized, and as I've got older and wiser, hopefully, fingers crossed, that I am, I've realized that unless some sort of identity transformation takes place alongside physical behavior change, the physical behavior changes, as in the diet, often become temporary. So let me kind of explain like this. Let's say if I'm working, purely hypothetical, but I'm going to paint a picture. Let's say I'm working with a client, a female who's 50, okay? She's realizing and having the unfortunate feelings that maybe some of our, and I hate to say it like this, I'm not trying to become descendant, but she's not 18-year-old anymore. Some of our best years as far as energy and time and motivation and opportunities and all that sort of stuff might be behind them. Okay. Now, let's say this person went through some traumas in that childhood. Maybe she had abusive parents. Maybe she went through some other traumas. Maybe there was some abuse, some sexual abuse, something like that, and she feels like she's overcome it. She's got a job, she's maybe had a family, she's maybe achieved certain things, but she's always carried around the feeling with her of, I'm not good enough. Nothing ever works out for me. Maybe she fears rejection, maybe she fears betrayal, maybe she fears being hurt again. So she struggles to be vulnerable, she struggles to be intimate, she struggles to express herself, because when you express yourself, people criticize you. And she's carried this personality for years, and she doesn't even realize that's a result of her childhood, her traumas, the abuse that she went through. She's had to shrink herself down and survive, and she's created a personality based off survival, not off thrival, not off self-expression. 20, 30, 40 years can go by. Now she's in her 50s, and all of a sudden she wants to lose weight. Okay, right. But if she thinks, I'm not good enough, I never will be, all bad things always happen to me, I can't trust people, people are always out to get you, how can she ever have a relaxed and regulated nervous system and follow a diet permanently without relapsing if that's her belief system? I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy. So when I'm working with clients now, I'm like, of course, we're going to talk about your diet. And okay, let's address your eating habits. Well, okay, they're not very good. Let's focus on this. Let's change that. Let's do this. But that's only 50%. That's only half the puzzle. The other half is the spiritual diet. It's like, what do you really think about yourself? Like when you're tossing and turning at night and
yeah,
you can't get to sleep. What's on your mind? When you look at yourself in the mirror, what words come out in your mind? What's the devil on the shoulder saying? What's the inner narrative saying? And if that is, oh, I'm not good enough, and I'll never be good enough, and some other limiting beliefs that someone has, then a diet will be temporary. And what I often find is yo-yo dieters, maybe the Slimming World crowd, the Weight Watchers crowd, maybe women or even men, but I mainly work with women who maybe lost weight, gained it back, lost weight, gained it back. They've been yo-yoing around with their body goals for years. Through every repeated diet that they fail, it's going to reinforce a belief system of, see, I knew I wasn't good enough. See, I knew it wasn't going to work.
yes,
See, I knew nothing ever works out for me. And it's actually creating this identity that they don't want. So if we actually want to see results, and that's what a big part of this book is about, it's about creating a new identity, as well as, yes, I need to change my eating habits. So we almost need to go on two diets here: spiritual diet and identity diet, change some things around with that, work on our identity and that inner narrative, that inner voice, our perception. As you know, perception is everything.
yes,
Perception is what creates the pathways in the brain, you know. And if we are living in a state of fear, anxiety, and betrayal, you know, because of unresolved traumas, which I'm not saying someone's fault if they are experiencing that. It's clearly a trauma response, right? We know a lot about
Yeah.
PTSD now and how that's come out. Complex trauma is not what people think it is. It's not an isolated incident. It can be, but it can be a whole host of issues, you know, complex
Yeah.
issues, an entire lifetime of challenges and dysfunction that people have just thought is normal, and in fact it's not. And that can massively alter the brain. And it's the perception as a result of that is, well, you know, limiting beliefs such as I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy enough, you know. That's what's running the show. So my job, and the purpose of that book, is to get people to, yes, improve their eating habits, but look at some of the deeper stuff as well. And if you can't even imagine a life where you are free from anxiety, where you can trust people again, where people aren't out to get you, people aren't out to hurt you, where you actually like yourself. Some people can't even imagine that, Amy. And I asked them that question. I'm like, what do you really think about yourself?
Yeah. Yeah.
And they can't answer the question. They say, well, I don't
Yeah.
like myself. I hate myself. I hate this. I hate that. I'm like, right. Can you see your problem now? You're never going to stick to it long term if that's deeply what you think, because your entire life will be a manifestation of that belief system. You know, that's quite a deep way of looking at it, but it's true. Identity matters, and we need to change our identity before we change our body. Our body will simply be a physical manifestation of our identity.
Yeah. But that's that. So you work with people on a mindset level before the food, or do you do it by at the both at the same time?
Absolutely the same time. Yeah. So let's say if you were a
Yeah.
you
Okay.
were program right now, right, and you were like, Sam, I want to work with you, I want to help you. The first conversation I would have would be addressing those 7 voids that I talk about in the book, to see
Yeah.
this person struggling in their life, and as a result, what identity perception has that left them with, right? And then I would say, right, we're gonna put that to bed. We're gonna talk about that in the future. Then we'll arrange another call, and we'll do what I call a nutrition overhaul. So in the first 2 meetings, I address both. So we've got to do both. We can't do one or the other. You can't think your way to better physical results, but you also can't force your way
Yeah.
to better physical results. So I have to do both. So I see the entire ethos of my program and my coaching is we'll do both behavior changes in diet, healthy behaviors, all the stuff that goes with that, right? So I'm a PT by trade. That was my original, you know, job. So I still do all of that, health and fitness, training and diet, but we just added onto this whole identity shift thing. So it's like life transformation coaching with a focus on eating habits.
I love that. I love that. You do go on in the book saying, what is the emotion
Yeah.
before I binge eat?
Mhm.
Now, is that hard for people to become self-aware of? Because a lot of it's kind of autopilot, isn't it?
Yeah, you're right. It is hard. So we're gonna have the way I would do it with a first time person who, let's say, never done any of this sort of stuff and was feeling a lot of resistance right now. You know, maybe they didn't want to accept or admit they were an emotional eater, right? What I would say is, right, think about the last time you overate, because maybe in the moment you're right, they're going to be too dysregulated, they're going to be right on autopilot. They'll be able to realize after, oh, after I felt very guilty, I felt ashamed, I felt like angry, I felt frustrated, but I can't understand in the moment, I can't catch it. So what we're going to have to do is do it past tense. Okay, so I'd say, right, think about the last time you overate, tell me about it, and they might go, last night, Sam. All right, what what happened last night? Well, you know, I came home from work and, you know, I was tired, I was stressed, I was this. And I go, okay, right. So now we're kind of getting a theme. Then I go, right. When you woke up in the morning, what was the first 3 hours of your day like? Well, I was stuck in traffic at work. And, you know, I went to work and there was this deadline I had to do. And okay, what else happened? Well, you know, I went on social media and something pissed me off. And I'm now starting to build up a picture of what certain triggers, the accumulation of the series of unfortunate events that unfolded to get that person in a position come the evening where they ended up eating. And through reverse engineering of, right, when was the last binge? Last night or whenever it was. What happened that morning? What happened that afternoon? What happened that evening? Right now we're starting to see themes. And that can get people to almost like reminisce and go, well, actually, yeah, you're right. I guess I was feeling really frustrated because of this thing, or I had an argument with my partner. Oh, I totally forgot about that. In the moment when that trigger, they're not going to be thinking like that. Their brain's just focused on survival. So we'll almost have to do it past tense. So that's how I would
Yeah.
start. And then eventually, when they build up a little bit of a picture, they'll be able to catch it quicker. Like, oh my God, I am anxious. And I know for a fact I'm thinking about food because that's what I do when I'm anxious, right? I just need to figure out what to do instead of food. You know, it eventually builds to that. But you're totally right. In the moment, they're not going to be able to answer that question. They've got to think about it past tense. Because when we're thinking about something in past,
Right.
like, we're out of danger, so the nervous system's not dysregulated. We're able to activate the frontal cortex, which is logic, reason, rationale, by asking good questions such as, right, what was happening that day, what happened the day before, all that sort of stuff. So yeah, it is absolutely in the moment. It's hard to figure it out when you're triggered. This is why a lot of this work needs to be done when you're not triggered. It needs to be when you're in a very methodical, deep thinking mood. Only then will.
Yes. Yeah. You mentioned as well about, because we're human and we can't be perfect all the time. And there will be times when somebody's doing really well, the mindset's great, their food intake's great, and then they have a binge moment. And like I say, it's a moment of disappointment. You could be embarrassed, ashamed, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I bet that's a hard point to stop and think logically and go, right, I'll try again tomorrow. Is that where, if somebody's gonna, I don't like the word fail, but revert back to old behaviour when they've had a moment like that?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's what the work is. People think like healing or eating disorder recovery or disordered eating recovery, whatever you want to call it, right? So I talk a lot about that in the book as well. People think it's cutting it out and never going back. That's not what recovery is. What recovery actually is when you have a relapse, what do? It's about your response to relapses. So when, let's say if I've got a client who checks in and goes, oh, Sam, I binged last night, I was doing so well. I'm like, yeah, of course you did. Like, this is what happens. This is why you joined my program for
Yeah.
this moment right now. So what I'll do is I'll normally do what's called an emotional transformer exercise. You might be aware of this. It's like, let's get the facts. What happened, right? Take emotion out of it. Let's logically look at what happened. And this means, okay, this means this means that, right? Lessons you've learned from it, reasons to be grateful. So what I try and do is transcend the negative energy that someone is feeling post binge, guilt, shame, feelings of worthlessness, maybe getting the urge to quit, but then turn it around into lessons learned into, right, okay, who am I now as a result of that? What would I do next time if I come up with a situation, and try to get them to respond to it? And the healing is actually done in that buffer between when you've relapsed versus when you next take the next appropriate action. Like I'll give you an example. I had a call with a client last night, 6 p.m. I had a call with her booked in every Monday. Don't want to call with her, hey, how's your day been? She was like, it's been okay, but I'm just going to be honest with you, Sam. I had a horrible day at work. The train that she was on commuting to work got delayed. She was stuck on the train for like 2 hours or something, or like a long commute. She went, oh, I had a big bar of chocolate, like 100-gram bar of chocolate. It had like 600 calories. I says, okay, well, it's 6 p.m. And she went, what do you mean? I went, I haven't had a terrible day. I went to eat some chocolate at 4 p.m., but it's now 6 p.m. I went, what's your next opportunity to get back on track? And she went, well, my husband's made a chickpea curry or something like that, a healthy meal. I went, could you have that meal? And I went, the reason why, if you don't eat now as a result of, I binged before, I had the chocolate, I'm not going to eat. You're just going to go along those old neural connections of overeating is bad, you're not good enough, you must punish yourself. Then how are you going to wake up tomorrow morning? You're going to wake up tomorrow morning underfed, tired, because the last nutrients you had was your bar of chocolate on the train, which, yeah, you overate, you had a big bar of chocolate, maybe you shouldn't have, but you're reinforcing restriction that follows the binge. And you're going to wake up tomorrow and you're more likely to do it again. What I want you to do is go to bed well fed. And that'll be the difference between you ending the day full of shame, full of guilt, full of self-punishment and self-loathing, ending the day going, I overate by 500 calories. That's not a binge. That's you overate by 500 calories. So it's getting my clients to see that through every relapse, every emotional eating episode, there's an opportunity to learn from it. There's an opportunity to get lessons from it. And there's an opportunity to respond from it immediately. Getting back on track, what people say, oh, I need to get back on track with my diet. What they mean is I want to feel in control again. But getting back on track is a physical action. It's you,
Yes.
right, I overate last night, but I've had a normal breakfast and I've done a workout today. Right, I overate this afternoon, but I went home and had my normal tea. I didn't continue overeating. I didn't punish myself for overeating earlier on. I just had a normal tea and went to bed. That's what recovery looks like. And through the act of repetition, eventually we will reprogram the brain. In that moment when we do have a relapse, we'll not be met with the intensity of, oh, I'm a failure, I'm guilty, I'm this, I'm that, I'm a waste of space, because that's, you're more likely to quit. And I always say to people, let's say you did binge last night, let's say you overate thousands of calories, right? You can choose to wake up and not continue on. You've actually got 100% control of that. What stops people from doing that is that belief system of, oh, say I knew I'd fail. And it's that pressure of I have to be perfect. I always explain recovery like this. You can't expect to be overeating or have struggles with your eating habits for decades, and all of a sudden you join a program like mine, or read my book, and then, right, I've got to keep the streak going forever now. Like if you plan on living until you're 90, right, and you're currently 30, right, so you're telling me the next 60 days you're not going to have a bad day where you eat some crap. Like, of course you are, right? That's not what recovery is. What recovery
Yeah.
is, and I explain this to my clients, is let's see if we can see a reduction in frequency. So let's say they join me for like 12 months, right? And after 3 months, they do a call with me, or we'll do a review. And I'm like, right, we've got all the data. In the last 90 days, you checked in with me and you had 15 days where you overate, okay, and you checked in, but you also had what 75 days where you didn't, okay. When you came to me, every night you were overeating. So within 3 months, you went from overeating every day to overeating, 20% of the time, right? So that's a reduction in frequency. So there's a win, okay. But then let's also look at when you did overeat. Your first response on that first day, the first out of 15 of the 90 days, when you overate, you continue for 3 days. You felt sorry for yourself for 3 days. You didn't check in. You isolated yourself. You consciously chose to overeat because you wanted to push down the guilt and shame. The second time it happened, it only lasted 1 day. The last time it happened last week, you overate at 12 p.m., but then you went home and had your normal tea. So we're starting to see recovery in other ways. So what people make the mistake,
Yeah.
this is why they quit, Amy. They say recovery means I'm never allowed to overeat again. Overeating's bad. I've got to be perfect. That's too much pressure. That'll create a limiting belief of, say, I knew I failed, so what's the point? I might as well not try. But if we have a realistic approach to recovery, which is, let's say, systematically over a period of time, can we see a reduction in the behavior? And then when we do see the behavior, can we see a better response? And what you'll see
Yes.
in a long period of time is it barely happens anymore. And when it does, it doesn't have the level of emotion intensity it once did. That's what recovery looks like. That.
Yeah. 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 I think people beat themselves up because there's a lot of all or nothing mindset around.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, and unfortunately it doesn't work like that. Even if it's not overeating, whether it's just improving your mindset, like on whole, like stop complaining, things like that, it's never all or nothing. Like your brain, it's a long journey to rewire your brain,
Yeah.
and especially where limiting beliefs are
That's
kind
where
of hidden.
That's why we have to look at the beliefs. Is ending emotional eating is
Yeah.
overhauling your belief system. It's not
Yeah.
how well can I stick to a diet. And if let's say someone does have that belief of all or nothing, like you said, well, what does that mean? Let's pick away at that. So that means you're only good enough if you're all. So what happens when you're 99% and you're not 100? Does that mean you're
Yeah.
zero? Well, that's the attitude people have. And if all it takes is one thing to go wrong and then you just quit, then you don't have a food problem. You have an attitude problem. You have a mindset problem. You have a belief problem. No one's holding a gun to your head and saying you're not allowed to overeat ever again. It's you. You're almost becoming your own emotional abuser. And I normally find people who have an all or
Yeah.
nothing mindset, they do tend to have a history of like emotional abuse in their life. And they've ended up carrying that on. Maybe it's a critical parent. I've had clients who've opened up and said, God, like, yeah, I didn't realize my eating issues were so linked to the relationship with my parents. I remember being at school getting a 97% mark on my exam. And instead of my dad patting me on the back and saying, well done, he'd say, why didn't you get 100? And I'm like, just little things like that. I'm like, yeah, if you grew up in a household where nothing was ever good enough, you were overly criticized, there was a lot of pressure on performance, love was given as a result of achievement, not through just genuine conditional love, that can program people to be never satisfied, never
Yeah.
happy, never good enough. They'll almost take that on, and their personality will become all or nothing. And like I say, they end up becoming their own emotional abusers through the strict standards that they feel they have to conform to, which then creates pressure and creates anxiety. And when that pressure builds and we quit
Yeah.
and we soothe again with our original coping mechanism, the same neural connections fire like were in childhood. Say you knew you weren't good enough. You're not worthy of love. You've got to punish yourself. So a lot of healing emotional eating issues, it's looking at the beliefs that have been formed at some point in our life, normally childhood, let's be honest, it normally is, and how can we
Yeah.
unwrap
Yeah.
belief systems now, and what is the link between our belief systems and our eating habits now? And the link is always there. And that's why people fail diets. They don't want to do this deep work. They just want to go on a diet. That's not enough.
No, that's it. Like I said, well, there's so many diets around, isn't there? It's like straight away people are just, it's like standing at the bottom of Snowdon trying to climb it in flip-flops because of all the information of this diet works, now you've got to do this diet. And it's a massive industry, the diet industry, absolutely huge.
Yeah.
And
So,
yeah, it works for some, but many it doesn't.
so you've made a great point there, Amy. So, obviously, since I brought this book out, I've been doing quite a lot of podcasts. I've also been doing a lot of speaking gigs. Like some people have hired me in different venues, and I've had my own client ones as well. And I've been like building what I call like my keynotes. You know what I want about. Where you have a particular
Yeah, yeah.
topic that you teach. So I've been doing this, right. And in order to practice that as a result of the book promotion, I got some statistics, right. You mentioned something about so profitable. Currently, the weight loss industry, right, and that's everything with health and fitness, but also surgeries, medication, certain weight loss drugs, everything to do with weight loss. It's currently a 500 billion a year industry worldwide. It's projected,
Wow.
and I found this by I think the Global News Network or something, which does like financial predictions of the next decade,
Mm.
are predicting that it's going to be a $1 trillion industry in the next 10 years. So the weight
Wow.
loss industry is set to double in the next 10 years. If it's that profitable, right, for people to struggle with their eating habits, if it's that profitable, then why would we actually help people get to the root cause and solve it? So there's a systematic problem here, really. And
Yeah.
this isn't a conspiratorial way of thinking. All you've got to do is follow the money, look at what narratives you see on social media, look at how our own governments treat health issues. Like, do you know how they treat disordered eating in the UK? They put people on a
No.
diet.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
That's it. Oh, you're a binge eater. Oh, you've clearly got unresolved trauma. Oh, you've clearly got eating issues. Right. Follow this 800 calorie soup diet. Like, I'm not even kidding. That's the treatment
It's dangerous, isn't it?
because it's profitable. The systems that are in charge of putting out information, unfortunately, do not have us best interests at heart. Because if the industry, the weight loss industry, which is
Wow.
built of people who are suffering, who are unhealthy, who are insecure, who are desperate to lose weight, that industry thrives the more people have those issues. So why would they solve the problem of overeating? They want people to struggle with overeating, so people get paid, you know. So that's why I wanted to write this book. It was like to
Mm-hmm.
revolutionize it. It was to plant that seed in people's mind. Like, listen, the institutions out there that are supposedly helping people with eating habits that fundamentally flawed. Now, I don't know if they're flawed intentionally, but they're flawed, right? And we know that because of the industry and how profitable it is, right? All you've got to do is follow the money, and it tells you everything
Yeah.
more. And that's a shocking statistic. You can go and research that yourself. Anyone who's listening, it's currently $500 billion industry worldwide a year. It's projected to be double that in 10 years. So they need more people to be confused with diets. They need more people to be in a yo-yo cycle. So they
Yeah.
money.
Do you know, I think it's a sad world. I mean, I'm a bit on the fence with the injections,
Yeah,
if I'm honest.
yeah,
I can see why somebody with chronic health conditions it would possibly benefit. But with the job that I do, I'm sitting here thinking it's very dangerous to inject yourself with something that will help you lose weight, but you've not changed this. So the reality is, if you stopped, you revert back
yep,
because you've done nothing up here. And I
yeah,
think that's sad that people are willing to pay money to inject themselves with something that could cause you harm and isn't changing anything, any wiring anywhere.
yeah. It's definitely a. I've got to approach it from a very nuanced perspective. So my perspective on this currently is if you study the science behind these GLP-1 drugs, they're actually very intelligent. Like how they come up with this, it's so amazing science, right? But you're obviously right that they're mimicking the semaglutide hormone, which is what the brain produces when you're full. So that's what the brain produces to tell you, hey, you don't need to eat anymore, right? And that's an ancient defense mechanism, right? Because when we were hunter gatherers, right, if we come across a woolly mammoth carcass and then the whole tribe ate it, right? We ate too much, and you know what? Like when you eat too much, you leave in a buffet, you can hardly walk. You're like, oh god, that's terrible. Imagine if we did that, we didn't have that off switch. We'd all basically sit around like like when dogs eat too much and they like go into coma and they have to ring the vet. Like that happens sometimes. Basically,
Yeah.
animals would have picked us off. They would have learned that, oh, these greedy humans overeat, and all we've got to do is hide in the bushes and wait for them to gorge, and then we'll eat them. So So this hormone, semaglutide, was developed through millions of years of evolution in mammals to go, whoa, you've had enough, stop eating. It's actually it's an evolutionary strategy for survival to not get picked off by predators. It's to keep us able to run away if we have to. And so that's what that
Yeah.
is, right? So they've, through science, been able to mimic that hormone, which goes to the brain, oh, you've had enough, don't eat. So it basically crushes appetite. It kills the incentive for food. It turns the food noise off. So it's very, very clever. And I will have to admit, that's better than mutilating someone's stomach and putting them through gastric surgery. I will admit that. So for someone who's morbidly obese, and let's say they've got a family, they've got loved ones, and they've been told, if you don't lose weight in the next 10 years, you're going to die, right? Then it becomes a trade-off between, right, what are the health issues associated with obesity and what are the consequences? Well, a lot and possibly death, versus let's put them on this medication, see if it helps. So I can understand, and I'm kind of for that to a degree. But the other side of it is like what you said, it's untested, it hasn't been out long enough. The wrong kinds of people are taking it. Like, listen, if you're, middle-aged person who wants to go to Marbella with the girls and lose 2 stone before your holiday, just so you feel better in a bikini, you are not a candidate for GLP-1 drugs. I'm sorry. That's not who it was designed for. It was designed for people with serious obesity issues and to give them a fighting chance to be able to create some sort of change. However, like you said, that's not what it's being marketed as. It's marketed as a monthly subscription. You basically got to stay on it for life to keep getting the results. It's not tested. So that's where I'm a bit like my eyebrows are raised as well. But the science behind it's very intelligent. I think it's a safer alternative to gastric surgery. So I think it's an improvement from that. But I think ethically it should be done alongside behavior intervention. And I think psychological intervention. I would be all for it, Amy, if the NHS said, right, in order for us to prescribe these GLP-1 drugs, they have to go through a psychological assessment to understand why you are wanting to take this in the first place. Why do you have eating issues? Is there any unresolved traumas? Let's look at your environment right now. Let's look at what's going on in your personal life. But don't ask any of those questions. And I think in order to be prescribed that drug, you should have to go through like talking therapy, and understand, learn some behavior changes on the pretense, and the doctor could say this, eventually, we're not going to give you this drug anymore. We're going to give you it as a kickstart while you learn the coping skills needed to regulate with your emotions. And then we'll phase you off the drug and you'll be able to keep the results without having to take it. And that's the healthiest way to do it. But that's not what it's being marketed as. It's marketed as bums on seats. Let's get as many people on as we can and let's keep them on it for life. Which, like you said, some people are going to stop taking it because they're like, oh, I've lost the weight. Great. I don't need it anymore. We're going to go back to where they were. Or people are going to be so frightened of losing the results, they'll get into debt to take it forever. It's like, is it like 300 quid a month to take it? It's insane amounts of money.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
So I think
I think it's sad as well that, people would rather, instead of feeling a little bit uncomfortable and changing what they do, they would rather inject themselves with something. That's the mindset I don't get.
Yeah, it is.
It's the easier option, isn't it? It's the easy option where they don't have to do anything different.
Yeah, I think they say this in Alcoholics Anonymous. They say there's no chemical solution for a spiritual problem, and that's one of the things, the mantras that they say when alcoholics are in recovery and AA meetings and whatnot. And that's to remind people, like, if you get the urge to use or the urge to drink alcohol, or in this instance, the urge to eat, it's all the same stuff, right? The chemical, the thing outside of you that's going to help you solve this problem, your emotion, it's never going to solve it because the problem's spiritual. So if we think about as a society, how easy, like, look, I mean, I can relate to this. I used to do bodybuilding, right? So I ended up getting involved in steroids after 4 or 5 years of training. And I look back now and think, what was going through my mind that I thought I had to take steroids? I was like, well, I was insecure. I was struggling with meaning in my life. I was comparing myself to other people. I had crazy standards. I had this all or nothing mindset. I was searching for happiness and validation in my appearance. So I had to take these chemicals and inject them into my body to try and find that feeling. But the problem was a spiritual problem. It was within me. There's no solution outside of you that exists that's going to help a spiritual problem. The answer is within you. So how quick are we to take steroids? How quick are we to, you say I feel sorry for them, but you say 16, 17-year-old young girls now, they've got filler, they've got Botox, they've got lip filler. I'm like, this is strange. I'm not trying to be judgmental here, but that's the new phenomenon. It's strange to see all of the beauty enhancements. Like, think about that for a second. Like, let's inject your lips with God knows what. Let's inject my body with God knows what. Let's inject this. It's like, how have a society we've normalized injecting chemicals into our body to make us feel better? Isn't that crazy when we just
Yeah,
take a step back
shocking.
for a second?
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
a spiritual problem.
Absolutely shocking. You are so right, and I love that saying. What was it? Say it again.
There's no
There's no.
chemical solution for a spiritual problem.
I love that. Absolutely love that. And that's why you are so good at helping people, because you are straight talker, you are compassionate, and you understand people, but you help them in a way where they can't hide from themselves, which to me is the best way.
Yeah.
And not many people do that. It's a quality that you've got, not a lot of people have. Because it's either, again, coaching can be all or nothing. They can either wrap you up in bubble wrap, or they can be really harsh with you. But you come from a place of compassion as well, which makes it incredible. So you inspire me so much, and your passion to help people. Is there going to be a second book?
I've already got a plan for a second book. Absolutely. There's so many things I wanted to write
Yeah.
about in this book that I didn't get the chance to write about. So yeah, I will at some point. That's what I want to do for like talking about long-term vision here. Obviously, I love coaching people and whatnot, but let's say in the next decade, I'd imagine I'll be settling down. You know, my girlfriend's been nudging us in the back in the middle of the night. You know, we've been together for 9 years, so I'm a little bit behind, and I'm coming up with all these excuses, right? So I would imagine in the next 10 years, right, I probably would have settled down a little bit. So I see my career kind of taking the direction of being more author, speaker, maybe having like resources that help people, maybe an online community rather than like one-to-one stuff long term. For now, I do a lot of one-to-one stuff. I love working with clients in the trenches, you know. So over the next decade, I'd imagine I've written many books. That's my goal. That's what I want to do.
So where can people buy this?
I mean, it is on Amazon, but I would prefer people to buy it directly from me. Just my website, I believe it's samgibsonlimitless.com/pre-order. I need to change it because it's not on pre-order right now. It's actually out, but that's what the website is. But if you go on any of my
Okay.
if you go on any of my social media pages, you'll see it's in my bio. It's all off my pages. So yeah, you can either contact me directly, you can email me, or you could just, like I say, type in the website samgibsonlimitless.com/pre-order, and you'll be able to grab a copy of the book. It is also on Amazon as well. So if you just search the name or the title, it should come up. However, Amazon's it's hard to get your stuff on the algorithm, so I'm going to have to try and get a lot of people to write some reviews about it, so people can find it easier on Amazon. Unless people have a direct link, they might struggle to find it because it's a self-published book. Of course, it's not a HarperCollins or Penguin, published book, so there's no marketing behind it on Amazon. But it is on Amazon. But if you want to buy from me direct, it's 15 quid, free postage in the UK, not to America. I should have made that one clear. Cost us about £27 to deliver one to America. So rookie mistake on the website. I should have said that. But never mind.
You've learned your lesson, obviously. Someone's gone to America, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's in a few countries, but yeah, £15, free mainland UK shipping.
I love that. Well, I ended with a question last time, so saying, tell me 3 good things about yourself, but that'd be cheating if I asked you that again. So I want you to tell me what three things that you have done where you've gone, Sam, I'm really proud.
Well,
Got
recency
to be one
bias.
of them, right?
Yeah, recency bias. Yeah, writing the book. I mean, like I said, 2022, I sat down and I'm going to write a book. 2023 didn't do it. 2024 didn't do it. I will not be doing that this year. I'll be doing my end of year review, I'm sure, in about 6 weeks' time. And we'll sit down in December and we'll look at what year and we'll plan out next year. And that one thing I wrote down at the start of the year, write a book. Well, I did it. I actually did it this time. So I'm not full of shit anymore.
Yeah.
So to say that brought some sense of accomplishment, definitely. So that, proud of myself in other areas. You mentioned it before about, like, and I'm blushing here, but you said a trait of mine, like I tell the truth and I inspire people. I guess to hear that, it does make me feel proud, even if my ego squirms, my childhood programming of never accept, always be humble, it's too good to be true, getting good feedback, always look for the negative. I have to really work hard to accept that. So I thank you for that as well. But yeah, I guess that has made me feel proud to know that people are actually getting getting inspiration from my book and from my work. And even when in fact, a client reached out to me today who I haven't spoken to in a year, and she gave me an update. So I'm doing brilliantly. She gave me an update on her life and this and that, and she thanked me. I'm still using it to this day. I even talk about you with my friends all the time, and it was just a random message like a year later after speaking to her. I get those all the time. That makes me feel proud. So I know, as much as my ego's squirming and trying to say to myself, be humble and don't brag, then I know I'm having a
Take
good
the compliment.
I know I am having a good impact. So to say that doesn't make me feel proud, it would be a lie. So I guess that. So my book and obviously writing that, the fact that I know I'm making people feel inspired and giving them some amazing value. And the third one, I don't know. It's a hard question that.
That's why I ask it.
I guess the fact that, like I mentioned before, I've been doing this for 10 years, right? Do you think in those 10 years, Amy, I haven't wanted to, and I think I said this in the last podcast, do you think in the last 10 years, I haven't wanted to go, right, how much money's in the business account? Can I refund every single client right now and fuck off to Thailand and never come back, right? Not speak to them, leave my family, all of that in a moment of madness when I've been so stressed and so overwhelmed and having business problems and challenges. Do you think I haven't felt that at some point? Absolutely, right? So I'm proud of the fact that I've always stuck it out. And after 5 minutes of mourning, I always calm myself down and go, no, you are not quitting. You just need to solve the problem. And that's when I come back full circle. First thing we talk about, questions, right? Questions are the steering wheel of the mind.
Yeah.
How can I solve this problem? Who can help me solve this problem? What am I avoiding within me? Why am I projecting anxiety and anger and frustration onto this right now? So the fact that I haven't quit, even though I've been massively tested, like the whole going from a personal trainer to an online coach, that was hard. Lockdown, when my income was overnight, and I freaking clue what I was going to do, and I come up with an online program that replaced my income and then some. I didn't need to go back to PT, put it that way. After the lockdown ended, I was like, I'm making double what I was last year. Why would I go back? So I'm proud of that. I'm proud of writing the book. I'm proud of my business. So I guess I'm proud of my. I just don't quit, and that's one thing I can say I value in me, in myself. Nothing can stop me. I know I can. My only enemy is me. I'm not at war with anyone else. I'm not in competition with anyone else. I know there is nothing outside of me that can stop me, only me. And that actually empowers me because I'm like, well, I'm in full control of my destiny. It actually makes me feel.
Yeah, I love that. Like we said before, the health industry is huge. And I'm not saying that everybody's in it for the money or telling people dangerous things or anything like that, but you, for me, are one of the very few people in the health world that are actually tackling what the problem is.
Yeah.
So never stop doing that, because I think the rest is quite dangerous, and what you do is sorting the actual problem. So
I learned that from
so if you
sorry, yeah. But I learned that from a while ago. Like if you just put out valuable, truthful, authentic information, you don't need to worry about your business, right? It'll take care of itself.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's people, I'm not that I'm saying that vitamins are bad or anything like that. I take vitamins, but you can take this supplement and this will help you lose weight, and you can drink ginger and water and that. And I'm just thinking,
I get it. I know,
yeah, it's endless. So I really appreciate what you do for the health of the people in this country, mate.
Thank you.
That's why I value you. So I truly mean that. So if anybody's listening to this, I really recommend going to Sam's website. You can get in this book. It is different to every other. It's not a diet book by any means. We don't need another one of them, but this is completely different, and it gives you, like I say, questions that are personal to you. So you'll come up with your own plan from this book. Sam's just here to help you. So, and give Sam a follow as well. So thank you so much for joining me. I'm sure I'm going to have you back on in 12 months' time to talk about the next book.
That's not out of the realms of possibility. Let's see if we can make that happen. Let's see.
Yes.
I'll do my end of the year review, and I'll see what comes up within me. and I might
I love
just do that. Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, love that. Well, thank you for being an amazing guest yet again.
No, thank you, Amy.
You take care.
You also inspire me. You said that before about me, but you do as well. I've seen you show up for years now, doing this podcast every single week. You're so consistent. An episode comes up every week almost, and I know other people who work with you and who've had a bit more, maybe a closer relationship than we've had. But I see you, I follow you, I see all of the work you're putting in. So you inspire me as well. You are also relentless in your own way with the message that you're trying to put out there. So this goes two ways. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. Really appreciate that. You take care, my lovely.
Thank you.